think it's literally baked into the culture in both faith cultures and larger societal cultures for women. That we're supposed to be small, I mean, physically, right? Even on a physical level, women are taught, women, it is communicated in every way, shape, or form. Be skinny, be little, be tiny, uh, be nice. Don't say things that are going to rock the boat. Don't like, don't mess with all of this stuff. Like, just stay in your lane, take care of the people, do the things. And that is a very small way to live. And I think that when there's an invitation to like something else, it's like there is this voice within us that is like screaming, yes, I want more. I want to be more. I want to do more. I am dying in this smallness. And that is, no one wins when we play small, man or woman.
Well, hey, welcome to another episode of the Pastors Roundtable podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Latham, where we give practical roadmap for rising leaders to thrive in life and leadership. I'm super excited to share this conversation with April today. She is a former youth pastor, a coach, traveling speaker, mom, just all around fantastic human being. And April, so excited for this conversation. Thanks for being here with us.
Yes, I always love a good conversation with another good human. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks. Well, okay, so let's jump back. You've done a few different things, youth pastoring, speaking, that kind of stuff. So just kind of give us a little bit of that overview. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Oh my gosh. So we established right before we hit record, we're the same age. And so, my gosh, I have now been in some form of leadership for over 25 years, which feels impossibly long. Like, how am I that old? But I was in local church pastoral ministry for 17 years at two different churches, and did everything from youth pastor. Well, actually started as an intern, as most of us do, and then several different kind of roles in youth ministry, and ended up in an executive pastor role before I left local church ministry world. And that's been almost 9 years, which is also wild. Time flies, especially the older you get. And so right after leaving church world, spent 5 years or so doing a bunch of consultancy work. You and I shared in that space for a while with a couple of different organizations that I did primarily coaching and speaking and some consulting work with. And 4 years ago, I started my own business. And so I am now a CEO and founder of a company and having a blast. I feel like I am in the best, sweetest spot that I've ever been vocationally. And it's really, really fun.
Okay, so you jumped out and took this huge risk to start your own thing. And it's called the Ezer and Co. And what's the name there? Talk to us about why you chose that name and kind of what that means.
Yeah. So Ezer and Co., I never would have imagined that I would have started a company, for one. And then two, I never would have imagined I'd start a company that was primarily focused on women. The name Ezer, it's actually tattooed on my arm here. I don't know if you can see that.
That's
A little
commitment.
reversal. Yes, this has been here for a solid decade. So this was way before I started my business. But Ezer is a Hebrew word, and it's taken from the Old Testament, where we see it 21 times in the Old Testament. Twice it's used in Genesis 2 when God calls woman in Ezer. 16 times it's used to describe God. And in Genesis 2, a lot of times that word Ezer is defined or described or translated as helper or helpmate. But the 16 times it's used to describe God, that word is translated as warrior, rescuer, strong helper, face-to-face deliverer. So I grew up hearing that I was a helper and a helpmate, which was made to put me in my place and to to really train me that my highest responsibility and calling and role was to be a wife and a mother, which that word has actually little to nothing to do in the Hebrew translation. And when I learned that that word is used to describe God, it totally changed everything that I thought about who I was created to be and what I was created to do in the world. Obviously, we are created in the Imago Dei, and it just spun that word on its head. So in starting Ezer and Co., it was a call back to the beginning and to who women have been created to be from the very beginning of time, and to remind us that we are not to be subjugated or in exclusive supportive roles or to be put down in any sort of way, but we are actually created to be in partnership with men and to reflect the image of God in the unique ways that we've been created. So that's where the name came about. And, we're actually not a Christian company. It's certainly got some deep faith roots and everything because of who I am and being a Jesus person myself. All of what we do is embedded and soaked in those truths. But really part of even choosing the word and the name Ezer was that it is for all women, regardless of your faith, your beliefs, your background, your experience to theology or the church. This is who we've all been created to be. And so let's to that.
I love it. So, okay, so you're talking to women primarily. Obviously, you do stuff with men as well. We talked about, and you're even uh, developing that side even a little bit more. But um, warrior woman, as opposed to not just this servant side. So, I mean, what does that warrior woman look like? I know you have these six dimensions about it, but even more than that, just kind of high level, what does that warrior woman look like?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's because of the word Ezer, right? It's like one of the translations within the Old Testament from the Hebrew is warrior. And when I think about women, that's how I tend to think about who women are. I mean, the ability to bring life into this world, I mean, that is like freaking warrior. Ability to grow something in your human body and then to evacuate them. I mean, that's like full on warrior status. But that we are created to fight for good and for justice and for wholeness and for love and for truth. That is the fight. It is the fight for all of those things, both for ourselves and for the people that we love and for this world. And so again, I want to remind women, like, that's your design. That's your identity is you're created to fight for all of those things for yourself and for others. And so
What I love about
it's
is so many times
active.
when we look at those things, I think I don't know. For me, when I hear a lot of those things, it's like this passive, soft, like well, like I'm a mom, I'm a these things. But I love that you're taking like this more like man, you're fight, like you're a warrior mom, like you're a
Yeah.
warrior.
Yeah.
It's like and
Yeah.
it's not this like retreating image.
Mhm.
It's more of
Mhm.
like a
Mhm.
on the edge of your seat. I just love that
Yeah.
imagery. It's so cool.
Yep. Yep. I do too. And women that we work with do as well. It feels like it is so empowering. It calls out so much more instead of this like shrinking back, playing small, hiding,
Mm.
shirking. It's like no, I'm going to stand fully in who I've been created to be and what I've been made to do in this world. And I'm going to fight for this stuff with everything that I am, just as a mama fights for her baby cubs, right? Or you fight for something that you believe in because it matters and because it is for good. That's the kind of warrior spirit that I see in women every day, and I want to call out more of it because when we see women fight for that kind of stuff, good things happen.
So, why do you think it is that more women or even really men are playing it safe and not, and they are kind of in this retreat mode or this kind of
Mm-hmm.
passive mode as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
this, a warrior mindset and playing it big
Yeah.
and going, why do you feel like there's so many? I mean, you coach a lot of them, right? So I'm sure you're getting way deep in there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, is it like imposter syndrome? And what are those things that are kind of holding us back from playing it small?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's literally baked into the culture in both faith cultures and larger societal cultures for women, that we are we're supposed to be small, you know? I mean, physically, right? Even on a physical level, women are taught, women, it is communicated in every way, shape, or form. Be skinny, be little, be tiny, uh, be nice. Don't say things that are going to rock the boat. Don't like, don't mess with all of this stuff. Like, just stay in your lane, take care of the people, do the things. And that is a very small way to live. And I think that when there's an invitation to like something else, it's like there is this voice within us that is like screaming, yes, I want more. I want to be more. I want to do more. I am dying in this smallness. And that is, no one wins when we play small, man or woman. No one wins. But yeah, I think it is taught to us from a very young age that that is how we are to participate in this life. So I'm just calling BS on it.
Okay, so I mean, give me some encouragement here. How do I get out of that mindset? How do I
Mm,
break free of? I mean, that's tough, right? I mean, you've been taught
yeah.
that, you've been screamed at that. So I mean, what's some of that process there for me to kind of break free of that and start thinking, playing it big? What's that?
Yeah. I think there's a couple of things that can be done. One is that where there is a resonance that I may be playing small, to
Mm,
acknowledge and own that. To simply be in agreement that this is how I am currently living and it is not how I've been created. Because the only place that transformation begins is by where you start right now. And so I think that that's incredibly important, is like that really ruthless honesty with yourself of going like, oh yeah, I have been playing small. I have been not living fully into my potential. I have been hiding. I have been excuse making. I have been playing it safe. And the acknowledgement of that is the beginning of the truth setting you free. So I think you start there. And then I think that, there is confession or there's healing in confession. So you got to find a couple of people that will say, I see you, and will listen and honor the fact that you are and have been playing small. And I think it does a huge disservice if you tell somebody else like, hey, I think I've been playing small. And they come back to you and be like, no, you haven't been playing small. You look at all these things that you've done. Like, that's co-signing on somebody's bullshit
mm,
instead of listening and going, oh, that may look big to you, or that may look big to me, how you're living. But in reality, that's what you're saying is not true for you. Quick diversion. About 10 years ago, I was working with my coach, and it was in like a coaching intensive environment. And he was asking some questions around how fully do you feel like you are living into your potential? And it was the clearest thing in the world to me when he said, what percentage do you feel like you're living into your potential? And instantaneously, 60% is what came up for me. And there was this rise of emotion inside of me, like anger, sadness. I mean, I almost like burst into tears. It was like every cell in my body felt like it came alive with the acknowledgement of that 60%. And shame of like, oh my gosh, 40% is
mm,
like, I'm not living into that. Like, there was so much. And yet, I mean, at that point in time, I was traveling the country speaking. I had written a book. I had run a half marathon. I was training for a half marathon at that point. I had 3 small children under the age of 5. I was executive pastor at our church. Like, there was a lot that other people could have said, like, oh, no way 60%. And my coach stood next to me in that moment, and I did break down. I had like a massive tearful outburst. And he said, well, what's it going to take for you to live at 70? And it became so clear to me. There were things that I needed to do and to stop doing that
mm,
would move me closer towards that 100%. And so I think you have to tell people that are going to not co-sign on your BS, but will actually say, I believe you. And so what's the next thing? What's your next step? And then you actually have to do it, right? Because self-awareness creates this illusion of transformation.
mm.
Just because you know something to be true about yourself doesn't mean anything. unless you actually do something about it. And so if you know you're playing small, own it. You got to tell somebody about it that's going to believe you. And then you actually have to start doing some things differently in order to get different results.
All tough.
It is. But you know what? It's also tough to play small.
Mm.
I think that's the thing. That's the rub in all of this, right? Is like, I think a lot of times we talk about transformation and change and like doing new things as like, it's really hard, but it's also really hard to play small. It's hard to like go to sleep at night and realize you're leaving stuff on the field. It's hard to like wake up in the morning and know that your voice isn't being used. It's hard to like go to work and know that you are not contributing at your fullest. That's really hard. And so I think you have to choose your hard. And at the end of the day, I actually think this question has been changing my life this year. And the question is, what if it's easy? We frame way too much around this is going to be hard. And I think it keeps us from living into the potential. I think it keeps us from making the decision. I think it keeps us from our whole self. And so like, I just keep asking myself, what if it's easy, April? What if this transformation journey is easy? What if building $1 million company is easy? What if transformation in your own life is easy? What if surrender is easy? What if it's easy, then we don't opt out of it quite as easily.
Yeah. Such a good question. Reframing that question. I think that's a lot of that transformation process is even just reframing. It's obviously we've all heard it, right? Like, is it not what if it fails, but what if it actually doesn't? What if it works? Like, what if it works, right? Reframing that question, So, one thing I know you're really passionate about is self-care. Even part of your company's why and vision is, whole life living and really embracing all of that. And so you've kind of broken down into these 6 dimensions. And so I'd love for us to spend a little bit of time, talk about those dimensions. What are they? And kind of unpack that a little bit for us.
Yeah. So we've defined really like our mission is all about wholeness. How do we become our whole self? How do we live into the whole person that we've been created to be? And I believe that wholeness is not a goal. It's not a destination. It's not something that we ever arrive at. Wholeness is really a lifelong journey. And it is about integrating every part of your life and leadership and fully living into your potential. I think that's what wholeness is. It's an integration. It's an alignment. There's a completeness. Actually, the root word for wholeness is healing. So it's like taking us back to that whole person that we've been created to be. And, but I also know like creating some definition and framework around like, okay, how does wholeness actually look like, or what does it look like then? And like, where do we go with all of that is helpful. So we have broke it down into 6 different dimensions, like you mentioned, physical, emotional, mental, relational, spiritual, and renewal. And it is in that order, actually, that we coach women and men, but women in our coaching groups through wholeness. So we start with physical because your body and our physical life is the foundation to your wholeness. That wholeness begins in our bodies. And, this is the vehicle by which we live and move and have our being. Like we are spiritual beings, but we are living in this physical body. And without it, we cease to exist. And so we start with physical because our wholeness begins there. So we say like our physical wholeness, it starts with sleep. It is fueled by food and it's maximized by movement. It's pretty simple. But it's also, like you said, there's a lot of difficulty to that. And women in particular, but I think men in different ways have received a lot of really toxic messages about our bodies and about how we are to be embodied, how we are to move throughout this world in this flesh and blood thing that we've got going on. How do we do that well? Women, we have a wholeness assessment that people participate in before they start coaching, and physical is one of the 2 lowest scored dimensions by women, almost to a person. So we've got a lot of work to do around how do we care for our bodies, how do we honor them, how do we listen to them. I told you before we hopped on this call, I'm in another whole like level dimension learning around how I do that with my own body, with some challenges that I've had health wise this last month. And it has like really made me double down on what practices do I need to start, stop, or tweak in order to care for my body well. Like what was working before is not working right now. But I believe that like our bodies have been created to heal and to repair themselves and to function at their highest level. And so we really are passionate about helping women to like come back to themselves in that physical way. So we start there.
Yeah. Well, I love what you two things. One, you say your body is constantly revealing what is going on inside of you.
Yeah.
And I love what you talked about there, which was that even currently, right now,
Mm-hmm.
going through some health things, that it's an ongoing process,
Yeah.
right? That,
Mm-hmm.
that you're kind
Mm-hmm.
of always evaluating that, and it's not just like you said, like, oh, I've arrived at this point, but it's always evolving and changing and adapting. And so having those tools to one, evaluate it, and then two, having the ability to know how to make those changes. So that's good. I love that you start there.
Yeah. I mean, it's important again for men and women in different ways, but like for women with our cycles, like every 28-ish days, like there's a very different hormonal cycle that takes place.
Mm,
And then you've got everything from, puberty to being a young woman and childbearing ages to having children potentially or menopause and beyond that. Like there's so many changes that take place in our bodies, specifically for women, differently for men, but there's some comparable comparisons. And we can't put it on autopilot. I was just telling a girlfriend yesterday, like, if we think that we can put anything on autopilot, we are not moving closer toward wholeness. Like, we are not becoming our whole self because it takes that kind of attention and deliberateness to become and live into this potential and God-given stuff. So
so
yeah,
good.
we have to begin there, and we've got to keep anchoring back into it. Like how's our sleep? What's going on with our nutrition, our food? Like how are we moving our bodies to the fullest capacity that it's able to? And I just think like when we expand what's happening there, every other dimension kind of comes to life in a different way. So
So cool.
emotional. Should we go there?
Yep.
You want me to go through these? Okay, I'll go through these a little bit quicker. So emotional is I love this dimension because a lot of us, I think, especially if we were raised in faith environments, have been taught that our emotions don't matter as much as our thoughts.
Mm,
And I would strongly disagree with that. Um, the research all points back to, the science points back to how we are primarily emotional beings, and our behaviors are activated by our emotions. But the average human can only identify 3 emotions in themselves and others in the exact time that they are experiencing and feeling them. 3.
wow.
Any guesses what those 3 emotions are?
Anger, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Fear, maybe.
Mm-mm.
ah, I don't know.
Happy, sad, angry.
Mm,
The average human can only identify those 3 emotions for themselves and another human being in real time. That's literally what we teach our toddlers, right? Like we teach a 3 and 4-year-old, like, how are you feeling right now? And they'd be like, happy, sad, mad. Like that's what we teach toddlers. And yet for even adults, like we don't grow in our emotional intelligence beyond those 3. But the consequences of not being able to identify your own emotions or other people's is really consequential. And our emotional intelligence is actually the highest predictor of success in our work and in our relationships. So we take a deep dive into how do we do that? How do we increase our emotional wholeness? How do we become more emotionally aware, emotionally intelligent, um, uh, deepen or lengthen our emotional range so that we can more fully live into who we've been created. Mental is really huge. I think mindset is everything. So our mental wholeness is more around like your thoughts, your creativity, your curiosity, your problem solving. How do you think about things? What do you believe to be true? Which is a lot of mindset work is around the beliefs that you have about yourself or others and the world. And when it comes to like our thoughts, this is wild. I don't know if you know this or not. Well, I'll just give you I'll give you a test, a little quiz, pop quiz. What percentage of our thoughts do you think are unconscious or subconscious?
Oh, that's a good one. Unconscious versus conscious. I'd say probably, gosh, I it's got to be massive that are unconscious. I would imagine like 80% or something crazy like that.
Yeah, between 80 and 90%, our thoughts are unconscious or subconscious. We are not even aware of what it is that we are thinking. Do you
So
know how many
that's
thoughts
not
the average human has on a daily basis?
is like 6,000 or something like that.
60 to 80,000.
That was close.
Maybe it's less for you, Ryan. I don't know.
So okay, when you're saying subconscious, are that is that like that? Is that not even like the thoughts that where you're like talking to yourself? Is that conscious?
Correct. That is a
So,
conscious thought.
so
Yep.
that's still conscious. So you're saying that there's
Mhm.
80 to 90% that's not even the like self talk. It's the like we're not even aware necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah. There is a
Oh,
complete unawareness. It is there, and most of those too are repetitive. So it's the things that we just think about ourselves, others in the world. That's like it's like the background noise that is impacting our emotions, impacting our actions, impacting our relationships to a very large degree. So part of our work is really to increase our awareness of the things that we are thinking so that our thoughts can be transformed, right? It's my favorite verse of scripture is Romans 12:1 and 2. Like we can be transformed through the renewal of our minds. So the renewing of our mind, taking every thought captive is incredibly important work, but most of us are very unaware of the things that we are thinking. And it's just, it's creating the life that we have for better, for worse. And if it's not what we want, that's some really valuable work for us to do. So
so where do those unconscious thoughts even come from? Is that just like Britain? Like where does that even gain there?
yeah, I mean, a lot of it is, I mean, there's a couple of different kind of buckets, I would say. One is unprocessed experiences. And
Mm,
so it's almost like your computer, right? Like when we're talking on Zoom right now, for something, and in the background of our computer is all of this stuff that's running that is allowing us to have this conversation and allowing the computer and the interwebs and we're several states away from each other. All of that is still like operating in the background, even though we're having this conversation. So I think our thoughts are a lot like that. Like it's there are things that are kind of operating in the background that are that have been unprocessed. We're unaware of them. I One of the phrases that I use a lot in coaching is our bodies travel by plane, but our souls travel by camel. And I think that a lot of our thoughts are these camel-ish things, like stuff that has happened, ways that we've experienced life, other people, circumstances, and they've just happened, and we haven't had the time, space, energy to process them. And so they just kind of go in the background and start to like work on our behalf, and like they form all of these beliefs around, what does this person think about me, and what is is this environment safe for me, and is this the kind of place that's going to accept me. And so they become like this operating system that we haven't like processed and brought out to like, is this actually serve me well to believe this, to think this, to view things accordingly? Did
and
that answer your question?
if we haven't consciously processed those, we
Mm-hmm.
probably aren't creating healthy, good versions of those thoughts.
Yep. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, I'm a mess. Okay,
Yeah.
I'd love to spend the next like 6 hours on this, but we gotta move. We gotta keep going.
Okay, so relational is number four. That's the fourth dimension. And relationships, I describe them as really the sisterhood and the partnerships that both anchor you and help you fly. So I think your relationships are going to, they're like that web of connection that is going to both anchor you, meaning like keep your ego in check, keep you like rooted and grounded, remind you of what matters most to you, call you on your bullshit, like all of that kind of stuff, but also to help you fly. So these are the relationships that are going, you can do it. Like, go
Mm.
for it. Your thoughts are getting in the way. You're writing yourself out of an opportunity before you actually even take it. They're the ones that are like kind of pushing you off the ledge, or, put like the Holy Grail in Indiana Jones, like take that next step, because like the step will appear for you. Like, keep going. So the relationship piece, I think one of the most important and valuable things that we walk our groups through is that the 5 people who are closest to you will determine your life. So the degree to which those people are supportive or not will create the actual life that you live. So when you take it back to earlier in the conversation when you asked about playing small, if you are playing small, the people that are around you are probably enabling you to play small.
Oh,
so you might need some new people. There's a lot more that I think we can get into, but
so good.
Relationships are huge. We're huge. I mean, we're created for relationship. One of the things that I say all the time is that transformation happens better together. We belong together and we belong to one another. And so we need those kinds of people that are going to go, let's do it. Change the world, change yourself. Let's be who we've been created to be. And those kinds of people, I actually have a picture next to my desk right here. This is my birthday party last year. It's my closest girlfriends in town who could make it for the evening. And I keep that picture on my desk here of those 6 women. And they're this is the sisterhood for me that is doing that is going let's go, stop holding back, go for it, don't play small, kicking my butt. So relational is number 4. 5th dimension is spiritual. And so spiritual is actually, the reason why it's towards the end is because wholeness, at a foundational level, at a living and breathing and just functioning on the planet, it starts with physical, but then it moves towards what is most meaningful. And that is, it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? We can't live without meaning and value and a sense of purpose. But unless our basic needs are being met and we're just operating with breath and food and shelter, that stuff doesn't even get to be as much realized. So we talk about spiritual primarily through that lens around connection to God and to purpose and to a sense of value and contribution in the world. And how is it that you're living into that? If there's not a connection there, you feel like you're kind of floating in the universe, and you're not actually making a difference.
Yep.
So spiritual is our world, but we try to talk about it a little bit differently so that there can be some fresh eyes around it. And then we wrap up with renewal. So again, it's really intentional that we wrap with renewal because renewal is about avoiding burnout and increasing energy. So I would actually say I'm not passionate about self-care. I'm really passionate about self-leadership. And I'm really passionate about soul care. I think self-care is pretty surfacey. It's like bubble baths and pedicures and, reading by the pool. I think that it's a really Band-Aid approach to a much deeper need that we have, which is to have fully energized lives that don't move us toward burnout, avoiding that to all degrees. And so renewal is the way to do that, but we have to lead ourselves into that. So we might do some self-care things in order to be fun and whatever, but it's not the solution to actually avoiding burnout and increasing energy.
Is that why you say self-care is not renewal?
Yes. Yeah.
So just taking a bubble bath is not renewal?
No, it's so temporary.
Mm.
It's just temporary. And I think that we do those really surfacey temporary things because one, we see it on the social worlds and it's oh, that's what we're supposed to do. So we'll try it. But I also think to really identify what is energizing and de-energizing, who is energizing and de-energizing is more deliberate work. And then you actually, again, like you said earlier, you actually have to do something about that. The knowledge of that doesn't do anything. So if I know that certain things or people are de-energizing to me, but it's 75% of my world, of my day, a bubble bath is going to do jack to solve that. Because all you're doing is going right back into what's de-energizing. And there are not enough bubble baths in the world to actually then bring renewal.
It's right. It's so true. It's so true. All right, so change gears here. I want to wrap up with this thought of, you spend a lot of time helping women become warriors and find that renewal, energize. How is it that men can partner with women to
Mm.
to again, you talk about it's that partnership, right? So how can men partner with women to help them be and see themselves as warriors?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's a couple of things that are like low hanging fruit. One is, and I'll answer it in terms of like both at home and at work.
Okay.
Okay. So at home, I would say men, you need to do a lot more. Almost all of the research and studies show that even if a woman works outside of the, even if both partners work outside of the home, women are doing the vast majority of emotional labor and physical labor within the home. So renewal, that's why we're like desperate for a bubble bath, because it's like it is like the quickest thing that's gonna like, it's like taking an energy shot, right? Like it's like I just need
Mm,
something as a quick pick me up, and I get that. There's no shame in that.
yeah.
I'm not trying to eliminate that altogether. I'm just saying like that's not a solution. So like men, we really need you to like book the doctor appointments and do the dishes and make the dinners and meal plan and pick up kids up from school and the things that like make the home function. All of the research is still pointing in 2023 that women are doing a disproportionate amount of emotional labor and household management. And I just think like if you want to partner better and have a better relationship with your spouse, that is like the lowest hanging fruit is show
Mm,
up differently in your home. And side note, we embed sexual and financial into all six dimensions because they are tapped into in all of those. And my favorite sexologist is Dr. Celeste Holbrook. And she says that the number one reason why women don't want to have sex is because of responsibility. And so, like, hello, if you want to change that, like, we need to lower the responsibility that women are feeling 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And there's going to be some benefit there for everyone.
wow.
So, there's that part. On the work side of things, I think partnership wise, a couple of things. If you are someone who has like women on your team, whether they are direct reports or they're coworkers, I think men, again, statistically, research wise, have so much more access to money and to opportunities for their development. And um, it's part of the reason that we are doing what we're doing is to provide space for women to have development, to have coaching, to become more of their whole selves. So pay for it. Find the dollars in the budget, reallocate it as necessary, subsidize it, like give women opportunities to be able to be developed in equal or even disproportionately toward women. Because if we're going to like do some reconciliation and restoration of some wrongs here, there has to be really a disproportionate effort, like in the opposite direction there. So pay for women to get some coaching, get some therapy, get some time at a conference so that they can actually expand. I think that those are the two lowest hanging fruit potentials, but we actually have a series on our website that we did during Women's History Month around like what are ways for men to do this better, to partner better with us. So that could be a resource that we could tap back to.
That's awesome. So good. If we could talk all day, but unfortunately, our time is up. But for those of you that want to get a hold of April and kind of connect, April, what's a good way for them to stay connected with you or to reach out to you, get connected?
Yeah, azerandco.com is probably the best place to start. We've got a weekly email that we send out, and we also have separate emails that we send specifically to the men on our list. We've got over 20% of our email list is men, which is really great because they want to do better. They want to partner with women. And so you can do that. Our social, we're active on Instagram and Facebook, but at Ezer and Co is our Instagram. And you can find us on Facebook the same way. So yeah, those are probably the best places.
Oh, so good. Um, Love what you're doing, and excited for people to get a hold of this conversation. And just thank you so much for your time. And I want to thank you guys for listening and watching for the Pastors Roundtable podcast. And we're excited to bring you another episode here shortly. Thanks, April.